can't handle the truth.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
You have offended my family.
Hey, this is great, man.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
I know nothing.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
We don't need no stinking budget.
Homosexuality, immorality in general.
How in the century you have blurred the meaning of the words we, the people.
Be warned, this is not your mother's marijuana.
You could ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
Welcome back, everyone. 46 after the hour. And today for the rant, I want to tackle this postcard that's being sent out by the No on 91 campaign. You know, they don't got a lot of money. They got about $167,000. $165,000 of that came from the sheriffs and the narcotics officers. And so they don't got a lot of money for TV commercials and all that. What they have sunk their money into is a mailer, a little postcard. And on the one side of the postcard, it's got a full-color picture of a bunch of different edibles from Colorado. And on the back side, in black and white, it's got just a shotgun approach to every damn prohibitionist scare about marijuana you could possibly ask for. So I have made 6 infographics that I'm distributing throughout my social networks here in Oregon to debunk a lot of this. And let's start with this first one here, which is their little light bulb. How many people are in prison for marijuana? Out of about 14,600 people in Oregon prisons, less than 100 are there for marijuana. And most were sent to prison for dealing marijuana to kids. Well, folks, that is just plain false, and we are going to show you exactly how that is false. 420 Radio obtained this email from the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission, and it was requested by the No on 91 campaign's District Attorney Josh Markey. There's a table here, and you can't quite read it on the screen, but the table shows you all of the people convicted. Kelly J. Officer writes, I ran the prison numbers for the intakes that have a most serious conviction of a marijuana offense. This table shows current inmates as of July 7th, 2014, whose most serious conviction is a marijuana offense. There are currently 130 inmates total. 130, not less than 100, like No on 91 claims. Now, if there were 130 marijuana prisoners, for most of them to be dealing to kids, that would have to be 66, right? 50% plus 1. But another look at that table, and I expanded it to show the different charges. The one in red there is delivery to a minor greater than 3 years age difference. There were 31 inmates in prison for delivery to a minor. Even if we add in the yellow lines, delivery within 1,000 feet of a school or growing by a school, that only gets us to 54. And again, just because they were near a school doesn't mean that was delivery to a minor. Most places in a city are within 1,000 feet of a school. Then there's that cost we got to think of. At $84.81 per day to house an inmate, based on the average sentence listed in that email from Kelly J. Officer, there are 130 inmates, and they have cost Oregon almost $8.6 million. Measure 91's a better approach. Tax and regulate those who wish to grow and sell. Legalize those who wish to shop and consume. Now we've got another debunk for you. This one is what I call the spaghetti test. This is where they throw a bunch of stuff up on the wall and let's see what will stick. And they say up at the top here, Oregon can learn from Colorado's mistake. And the way they call it a mistake is by making a few scary claims and ignoring positive results. You know, like $45 million in tax revenue, not mentioned. 18,000 new jobs, not mentioned. Eliminating 7 out of 8 marijuana arrests, not mentioned. Serious crime dropped 10%. Not mentioned. Tourism revenue went up 6%. Not mentioned. And in fact, Colorado's teen use has dropped in 2 successive surveys, while the U.S. teen use has risen, both among teens who use monthly and teens who have ever used marijuana. The drop in Colorado is greatest among younger teens, and Colorado teens find it harder to access marijuana than their U.S. counterparts. And the fact is that positive tests for marijuana do not prove a driver's impairment. They only prove someone is a marijuana user. There are probably more married gay people in fatal accidents too, now that marriage equality for gays is legal. The real question is, how safe are the roads? In Colorado, the roads have been safer than the national average since 2005. And a recent DUI checkpoint of over 1,500 cars netted 20 alcohol DUIs and 0 marijuana DUIs. Nobody wants children or adults to be harmed by marijuana. That's why we're calling for legalization. So kids are carded and adults get inspected and labeled marijuana. But scaring people with statistics about hospital visits is intentionally misleading. When a substance is illegal, fewer people want to report to authorities that they're using it, even if it is making them sick, because they fear prosecution. If reports of domestic violence rise when we open up anonymous tip lines, we don't think tip lines made spousal abuse rise. We understand that spousal abuse was already happening, but was underreported. So too are problems with marijuana underreported because of its prohibition, and regulation will better address those problems. Remember, No on 91 derives 98.6% of its funding from law enforcement agencies that have a vested interest in maintaining the asset forfeiture bounty and easy arrest statistics of prohibition. Another part they try to scare us about here in the No on 91 campaign flyer, a picture of a bag that has an ounce of weed in it versus a picture of a bag that has 8 ounces of weed on it and the label 400 joints. They're trying to scare everyone by saying Oregon's Measure 91 allows people to have a whole lot of marijuana, just like Colorado and Washington do. Gotta go back to that. So here's the limits of Measure 91, and they happen to match the limits in the first 2 legal states of Colorado and Washington and improve on some other limits. In Washington, you can have an ounce of marijuana outside the home. And in Colorado. And in Oregon. It's exactly the same. In Oregon, you can have 4 marijuana plants. Now, that's less than Colorado's 6 marijuana plants. In Oregon, you can have 8 ounces of marijuana in the home. That's less than the unlimited amount of marijuana you can have in the home in Colorado. In Colorado, they allow you to keep the results of your harvests in the place where you grew the marijuana. That could be 20 pounds. Officer, this is the results of my harvests. Measure 91 is going to allow 16 ounces of marijuana-infused edibles, just like Washington State, and less than Colorado. The law in Colorado allows you to have 1 ounce of THC in any form. So those brownies, you could have 3 pounds of brownies as long as they just had an ounce of THC in them. Same thing goes for the marijuana-infused liquids. Same limit as Washington State, 72 ounces, and less than the limit in Colorado, which again is 1 ounce in an infused liquid. That could be 80 gallons, as long as you just put 1 ounce of THC in it. And as far as concentrates go, we're going to be allowed an ounce of concentrates in Oregon, just like Colorado, because again, Colorado, you can have an ounce of THC in something, but that could actually be more than an ounce of concentrate, since concentrates aren't 100% THC. And furthermore, Oregon is the only state of the 3 that will explicitly ban the home manufacture and possession of home manufactured concentrates. No other state is going to have an explicit ban on homemade concentrates. There's nothing new about legalizing marijuana anymore, folks. Regulation has been proven to be a better approach than prohibition. Measure 91 takes the best of Colorado and Washington and improves it. Another piece of the spaghetti scaremongering, throw it against the wall and let's see what sticks, comes at the top of their postcard, where they worry that big marijuana business targets kids, youth use will increase, There's too much marijuana allowed. It's not your father's Woodstock weed. There's no DUI standard. It feeds the black market and it loses money. Whatever they can throw out to see if it'll stick. And all of these fears are so easily debunked with just a little common sense. First of all, adults are the fastest growing market for legal marijuana. And they're particularly fond of medicated edibles. Think about it. According to the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, in 2002, there were 2 teenage marijuana users for every 1 senior over the age of 50. In 2012, there were 3 senior marijuana users for every 2 teens. Since smoking is forbidden most everywhere, adults prefer edible options. The stores in Colorado and Washington can only sell to adults, and the product is flying off the shelves. The youth use of marijuana is down over the last 2 Colorado Healthy Kids surveys, and teens in Colorado rate marijuana more difficult to access than teens do nationwide. Oregon is allowing the same or lower limits on marijuana possession than Colorado and Washington. Don't be misled. Oregon will only allow 1 ounce outside the home, just like Colorado and Washington do. And the 8 ounces allowed in the home is less than what Colorado allows. As far as the Woodstock weed, marijuana potency is irrelevant. High is high. This scare about the Woodstock weed misleads you to think that marijuana is better or worse depending on potency. Look, marijuana gets you high. Whether you smoke 5 Woodstock joints to get high, or 1 modern joint to get high, or a dab to get high, high is high. And as far as driving, legalization does not invent cars and marijuana. Driving under the influence is illegal now. Oregon's had 69,000 medical marijuana patients and has had legal medical marijuana since 1998. If there was going to be an epidemic of stoned driving, we would have seen it by now. And yet Oregon's roads are safer than the national average. And as far as there a black market not going away, look, there will always be a black market for anything. There's a black market in DVDs. There's a black market in cigarettes. But legalization takes away most of the black market and depresses the profit for the rest of the black market. I mean, you really got to be desperate to scare people about a tiny black market after legalization when now the entire market is the black market. And finally, about this $1 cost for every, or $10 cost for every $1 in taxes. Yeah, that's true of alcohol and tobacco because those are toxic and addictive drugs, unlike marijuana. Oregon's Legislative Review Office estimates that Measure 91 is going to generate $17 to $40 million in tax revenue. Colorado's already made $45 million. Has anybody heard a claim that Colorado's had $450 million in social costs? I don't think so. That's the first 3 of our debunkers on the Measure 91 postcard. If you want to see the other 3, stay with us for Toker Talk Radio, Hour 2, starting at 4 o'clock. We'll give you the rest of the debunkers. We've got an interview with Charlo Green. High Times talks to Charlo Green from Alaska, the reporter who said, "Fuck it, I quit." And more coming up on Toker Talk Radio, Hour 2 of the Russ Belville Show. That's all for Hour 1. Thanks for joining us. I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you